Chapter 1: The Veteran's Tale. The bar on the space station was quiet, save for the clinking of glasses and the occasional murmur of voices from a few other patrons. It was a typical evening, the kind where space travelers and soldiers alike gathered to unwind. But for the journalist, this night was far from typical. She had heard rumors about the infamous human-Cther conflict, whispers of a war so devastating, so brutal, that the mere mention of it could send shivers through even the most seasoned soldiers. Her eyes settled on the grizzled Cther veteran sitting alone at the far end of the bar. His mandibles clicked restlessly as he nursed a drink that appeared far too strong for any sensible being. His armor was scratched, dented, a testament to his many years of combat. The journalist's antennae twitched in curiosity, and after a brief hesitation, she made her way toward him. "You want to know why we lost the war?" he asked before she could speak, his voice a harsh rasp, like two pieces of metal scraping together. The young journalist sat across from him, eager for the story. She'd heard rumors about the human-Cther conflict, but first-hand accounts were rare. Veterans rarely spoke about it. The pain was too fresh, too raw. Yet here he was, willing to share it all. "Because we never stood a chance against those psychotic primates," he continued, his mandibles clicking in agitation. He took another drink, his compound eyes reflecting the dim lights of the bar. "Let me tell you something about humans in warfare. You think you understand violence. You think you understand combat. You don't." The journalist leaned forward, her antennae trembling with interest. She had heard about the military superiority of the Empire, but the veteran's words were unsettling, shaking her beliefs. "Military superiority?" she asked, incredulity lacing her voice. The veteran snorted, his mandibles vibrating with laughter that seemed almost bitter. "Let me explain something about humans. They turned warfare into an art form long before they ever left their gravity well. While we were perfecting plasma weapons and energy shields, they were perfecting ways to kill each other with sharpened metal and refined explosives." "But that's so primitive," the journalist protested, confused. "Primitive?" He slammed his glass down with such force that a ripple ran through the drink. "Let me tell you about primitive. During our first engagement with human forces, we deployed perfect, state-of-the-art battle formations. Geometric patterns, optimized by our finest military AIs. And what did they do? They looked at our perfect formations and laughed. Then they started throwing rocks at us. Rocks. Not just any rocks, tungsten rods dropped from orbit." The journalist's eyes widened. "Rods from God?" "Exactly," the veteran said, nodding. "Pure kinetic energy. No radiation, no fancy energy signatures to detect. Just death from above." He paused, taking another drink, his voice growing darker. "And do you know what else they did? They didn't care about numbers. We thought we had them outnumbered, 10 to 1. But humans? They don't care about being outnumbered. They're good at fighting that way. There's a whole mythology built around it." Chapter 2: Human Ingenuity. The journalist's antennae twitched in confusion. "But surely we had superior technology. Superior numbers." Another harsh laugh escaped the veteran. "That's the best part. We thought we had them outnumbered. We had the technology, the resources, the perfect tactical advantage. And they had, what? They had video games, simulations where they learned how to fight with no rules, no limits. They had strategies built into their culture. Every human child grows up playing war games, capture the flag, paintball, laser tag. Combat was just a part of their childhood. They turned it into entertainment." "But that's just simulation," the journalist argued. "That's nothing like real combat." The veteran's mandibles twitched in dark amusement. "That's the difference between us and them. We were taught to fight based on logic, calculations. They see the battlefield as a playground. They don't just follow tactics, they invent them on the fly. And that's not the worst part." "Then what is?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. He leaned forward, lowering his voice to a whisper. "The scariest part is their creativity. They don't just follow the rules of war. They break them, bend them, twist them into something we could never have imagined. The journalist shifted uncomfortably in her seat. What do you mean? During the Battle of Imus and Tori, we had them cornered. Superior numbers, superior positioning, superior firepower. By every tactical calculation, they were finished. He paused, his voice dropping to a near growl. And then, they intentionally detonated their own antimatter reactor containment fields. The journalist's eyes widened. What? They destroyed their own fleet? They fried their own systems, the veteran said darkly. And ours along with it. While both fleets were dead in space, they launched boarding parties using chemical rockets, primitive things, just like something out of a child's toy box. And you know what? They cut through our hulls with thermal lances. Not plasma cutters. Not energy beams. Just really hot metal. And they were singing. Singing while they did it. The journalist's mandibles trembled. Singing? Some ancient war song, the veteran muttered, his voice far away. Blood upon the risers. I think that's what it was called. Something about parachutes failing. Can you imagine that? We had our soldiers trained to fight, to kill, and they were getting cut apart by humans, singing some old, twisted song about dying. Chapter 3: The True Face of War. The journalist took a moment to process what the veteran had said. But surely, we still had better ships, better weapons. Our military. Better ships? The veteran's laugh was hollow. Let me tell you about human ships. We spent centuries building elegant vessels, perfect symmetry, optimal energy distribution. But humans? They didn't care about elegance. Their ships were brute force, over-engineered monsters, designed to take a beating and keep going. No fancy shielding. Just layers upon layers of armor. Whatever worked. His voice softened as he continued. We thought our advanced technology would win the war for us. But what they brought was everything. Energy weapons, kinetic weapons, chemical weapons, biological weapons. If it could hurt someone, they weaponized it. And that's not even the worst part. The journalist leaned in. There's more? They weaponized information, the veteran spat. They studied us, learned our culture, our psychology, our social structures, and they used it against us. By the end of the war, our troops were surrendering because they thought humans could smell fear and would give a quicker death to those who didn't resist. That's ridiculous, the journalist whispered. Exactly, he hissed. But that's the thing about humans, they don't care about ridiculous. If it works, they'll use it. Chapter 4: The Final Revelation. The veteran drained his glass and looked the journalist in the eye. But you want to know the real reason we lost the war? His voice grew solemn. The fundamental reason why humans are unbeatable? She nodded, waiting for the answer. Because they enjoy it. Not the killing. Not the death, though some of them do, and those ones are terrifying. But the challenge. The problem solving. The strategy. They treat warfare like a game. Like a puzzle to be solved. And they're damn good at it. He gestured to the bartender for another round, his eyes reflecting the stars beyond the viewport. You know what they did after we surrendered? They invited our military leadership to something called a paintball tournament. They said it was good for post-war relations. So, there we were, surviving officers of the war, getting shot at with colored balls while humans laughed and treated the whole thing like some kind of party game. The journalist's antennae drooped. That's disturbing. Disturbing? The veteran's mandibles clicked again. It doesn't even begin to cover it. You know what their civilians were doing during the war? Building model replicas of our ships and vehicles, creating simulated battles in their video games, writing speculative fiction about what could have happened if the war had gone differently. They turned it into entertainment. The veteran paused, his voice thick with bitterness. We were fighting soldiers. They were fighting warriors. And that's why we lost. Chapter 5: A New Understanding. The journalist sat in stunned silence, her mind spinning with the implications of what the veteran had said. Finally, she spoke. "Do you think they'll ever change? Become more civilized?" The veteran's laughter was cold and mirthless. "Civilized? They are civilized. That's what makes them so dangerous. They've managed to balance the warrior spirit with a sophisticated society. They've got ballet dancers who practice martial arts, scientists who play war games in their spare time, politicians who hunt for sport." He gestured to a group of humans at the far end of the bar, laughing in arm wrestling. "Look at them now. Just having fun. But if you threaten them, if you push them too far, you'll see their true nature." The journalist shivered. "And what's that?" "Humanity," the veteran whispered, "doesn't just study war. They transcend it. They turn it into something else entirely." As the veteran stood to leave, the journalist called out to him. "Is that why they make peace after wars? Because they've already won in their minds?" He turned to face her, his mandibles clicking slowly. "Exactly. They win not by conquering the enemy, but by conquering themselves. And that's why, if you ever go to war with a human, you better be ready to lose, no matter how big you think you are." The veteran walked away, leaving the journalist with the quiet hum of the bar and a newfound understanding of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Ready for more? Like, subscribe, and let's keep exploring the unknown together.